Hello everyone, welcome to today's story. What if love blossoms between two worlds so far apart? A wealthy CEO burdened with responsibility, and a gentle village girl carrying silent hardships. Can their hearts withstand the weight of family objections and the trials of fate? Or will their dream be torn apart before it truly begins? Stay with us until the very end to uncover the answer. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us reach 1,000 followers and bring you more unforgettable love stories. At dawn, a pale blue mist still lingered over the rice fields, casting the whole landscape into a dreamlike haze. Diep walked quietly along the narrow path cutting through the fields, her white conical hat resting in her hand, an empty bamboo basket on her back. Each step was slow, as if weighed down by the silent heaviness within her heart. At the village crossroads, a few farmers gathered around a cart filled with freshly harvested tomatoes. Their eyes followed Diep, curious yet familiar. She offered them a gentle smile, warm but tinged with hesitation, before quietly slipping past. When she reached the tomato garden, the scene opened before her eyes. Rows of lush green plants, their branches heavy with plump crimson fruit, glistening like jewels suspended among the leaves. The garden's owner, a lean man with a face weathered by sun and wind, was stooped over, tying the vines one by one. He looked up, his gaze resting on Diep, filled with both strangeness and quiet compassion. Diep's voice broke the silence, trembling yet sincere. "Uncle, may I pick some tomatoes to sell at the market? I'll only choose the ripe ones. I won't harm the plants." The man paused, then gave a small nod. To Diep, that silent nod felt like the morning sunlight breaking through, dissolving the chill that clung to her heart. She bowed in gratitude, then slowly stepped between the rows of plants. Her small hands began cradling each ripe tomato with tender care, as though she were touching the last fragile seeds of hope left in her life. While in the countryside, Diep still bent over the rows of tomato plants, her calloused hands gently cradling each ripe fruit. In another world, life pulsed to a starkly different rhythm. The vast timber mill stretched endlessly. Stacks of planks rose high, neatly arranged like sturdy walls. The raw scent of resin mingled with the morning mist, filling the air with the heady fragrance of labor. James, dressed in a crisp black suit, walked slowly between the rows of lumber. His face was stern, his eyes behind the glasses gleaming as they examined every detail. Each step struck firmly against the concrete floor, echoing like drumbeats commanding the entire space. He stopped by a stack of wood, his hand brushing across the grain, feeling each cut, each mark. His brows furrowed briefly, then he gave a slow nod, a gesture that was both an order and a silent vow. Around him, the roar of saws and the pounding of hammers blended into a fervent symphony of work. Amidst that thunderous cadence, James stood unwavering, a man carrying the weight of an entire enterprise on shoulders forged from iron will and relentless responsibility. The dirt road leading to the village market was still veiled in mist, cool and hushed in the early morning. On Diep's shoulder, the bamboo basket sagged under the weight of crimson tomatoes. Each step she took echoed softly, like the steady beat of a humble livelihood. At the market, she spread out a small sheet of nylon and carefully arranged her baskets of tomatoes. Their vibrant red gleamed against bundles of deep green forest vegetables, blending with the cheerful chatter around her, as if breathing fresh life into the village morning. The market was simple yet warm. Women sat close together, their mats laden with greens still damp with dew, long gourds, and fresh bunches of mustard leaves. From one corner came the rhythmic clatter of knives on chopping boards, mingling with the rising fragrance of steaming pho. In the distance, a rooster's crow intertwined with the playful laughter of children, weaving into a rustic symphony of the mountain village. Diep sat quietly by the roadside, her eyes lighting up with a modest joy whenever a customer stopped. Her hands moved swiftly, selecting tomatoes and slipping them into a bag. A gentle smile bloomed on her lips, easing away the lingering fatigue. In that moment, the whole morning market seemed to glow brighter. The tomatoes in her basket were no longer just produce for sale. They had become tiny flames, quietly sustaining Diep's heart along the rugged path of life ahead. Amid the bustle of the early market, streams of people moved back and forth in a lively flow. A woman in a striking red dress suddenly paused. She bent down, her hand brushing over the plump, ripe tomatoes, her eyes focused and thoughtful. Diep looked up with a gentle smile. Her small hands moved swiftly, picking out the tomatoes and placing them into a plastic bag. Her voice, soft and polite, floated into the air like a passing breeze. To Diep, this was just another familiar customer at the humble village market. She never imagined it was James's mother. When she received the payment, Diep hesitated. The bills in her hand exceeded the price of the modest bag of tomatoes. She quickly looked up to speak, but the woman had already turned away, disappearing into the crowd. Without thinking, Diep hurried after her, her voice urgent. "Madam, you gave me too much money." The woman stopped. A flicker of surprise crossed her eyes, then slowly softened into warmth. She gazed at the young girl, breathless and holding out the money, and a tender smile curved across her lips. "You've worked hard. Keep it. Consider it a gift," she said, her voice low yet gentle. Diep shook her head, her eyes firm but respectful. "I cannot accept it, ma'am. Your purchase alone is already more than enough." She bowed her thanks and returned to her small stall. The woman stood silently watching, her smile lingering. In her heart, a quiet warmth spread, as though in the midst of this rustic village market, she had just discovered a rare light of sincerity and purity. Little did she know, that very light was the girl about to step into her son's life. James had just finished his work at the mill when the phone rang. His father's warm, steady voice came through the line. "Son, come home for dinner tonight. I have a surprise for you." James froze for a moment, a flicker of surprise stirring inside him. He agreed, then turned his car toward home. The long road stretched past the window, but his mind was restless. All morning he had tried calling Diep, yet she hadn't answered. Where was she? Was she all right? In his heart, he promised himself he would stop by the farm right after lunch. As the wooden door opened, his steps faltered. Bathed in the glow of the room's light, seated on the familiar sofa was the figure of his mother. The same gentle smile as always, only now marked with the traces of time. For a heartbeat, every sound around him seemed to vanish. James stood motionless, his nose stinging with tears. His mother gazed at him, eyes shimmering, her voice trembling. "James, my son, you finally come back to me." Unable to hold back any longer, James rushed forward and embraced her. His father, sitting beside her, smiled softly, his eyes glistening with joy as he watched the reunion unfold. That evening's meal brimmed with warmth. On the table, familiar dishes from home steamed with comforting fragrance, as if filling the little house once more with the presence it had long missed. Laughter and conversation flowed about the expansion of the mill, the calculations of business, and finally, a simple wish that James would soon settle down and marry. James froze, his chopsticks lowering slowly onto the table. In his mind, Diep's image appeared vividly. Her slender figure, her steadfast gaze, her worn but tender hands. He wanted to speak, to introduce her to his parents right then and there. But within his chest, anxiety rose. If they knew Diep was just a poor girl from the farm, would they accept her? Or would they oppose, doing everything to stand in the way? Outside, the evening breeze whispered restlessly, echoing his turbulent thoughts. James forced a faint smile, concealing the storm inside. In silence, he could only make a vow to himself. The right time will come. And when it does, I must be strong enough to protect this love. That morning, the winding dirt road leading into the village was still veiled in a layer of dawn mist. James's mother, carrying a small umbrella, made her quiet way toward the wooden house where her childhood friend lived, Diep's mother. The bamboo gate creaked open, and when the two women met, their eyes lit up, stirred with a rush of memories long past. After so many years, they still saw each other as the girls who once ventured into the forest together, digging for wild yams in times of hunger, sharing every scrap of dry rice. Inside the simple wooden home, kitchen smoke curled through the air, blending the scent of freshly harvested rice with the warmth of burning firewood. They sat together, sipping hot tea, their conversation flowing endlessly. James's mother set down her basket of gifts, smiling as she spoke. Diep has grown so quickly. Just yesterday at the market, I bought tomatoes from her. Lively, quick, and such an honest girl. She paused for a moment, a flicker of curiosity in her eyes. Has she found someone yet? Diep's mother let out a sigh, the sound like a weary breeze slipping past wooden walls. The girl loves a wealthy man. I fear for her, afraid that if she steps into that world, she'll know nothing but sorrow. Poverty can only look up, it cannot reach. James's mother listened in silence, her hand gently clasping her friend's, her gaze heavy with unspoken emotion. When it came time to leave, she embraced her old friend. What seemed like a simple hug of affection after years apart concealed a quiet gesture. She slipped a bundle of money into her friend's pocket. No explanation, no display. Only a tender smile and a look of affection left behind. Diep and her mother walked her to the gate, believing it had been nothing more than a friendly visit. But once back inside, a hand brushed against the pocket and froze. The bundle of money lay there, silent as an unexpected secret. Mother and daughter exchanged a look, their hearts caught between warmth and unease, touched by the kindness, yet unsettled by the unspoken question it carried. Dusk descended, and the last rays of sunlight spread thinly across the thatched roof, bathing the small earthen courtyard in gold. Diep returned to the farm after a long day. Her clothes were dust-stained, her shoulders weary, yet her eyes still carried their familiar resilience. She set the basket down by the porch, but did not rest. Rolling up her sleeves, Diep carefully swept every corner of the house, wiped the thin layer of dust from the bamboo table, then folded the rumpled mat neatly. Each slow, deliberate movement radiated orderliness, her quiet effort to keep the little home tidy and warm. Suddenly, the phone rang, shattering the stillness. James's deep, steady voice came through. "I'll come over and bring a little food for dinner." Just that brief sentence made Diep's heart tremble gently, warmed by the sense of being cared for. A little while later, the hum of a motorbike stopped at the bamboo gate. Under the newly lit lamp, James appeared, his face shadowed by twilight, yet his eyes shining bright and tender. He placed a box on the bamboo table. When Diep lifted the lid, a ceramic tea set gleamed softly in the light, simple yet refined. She froze, her eyes welling with tears as her trembling fingers brushed against the cool glaze. For years, she had only known rustic, worn utensils. Now, this small gift made her feel cherished, treasured more than ever before. James stood silently, his gaze gentle, carrying all the words left unspoken. All he wanted was for the woman he loved to feel joy, to feel complete, even through the smallest of things. Amid the quiet evening, Diep lowered her head shyly, but a faint smile curved on her lips. And in that moment, the little house seemed to glow, not only from the golden lamp, but from the warmth of love quietly filling the air. After dinner, the small house glowed under the soft golden lamplight, shimmering like fallen stars scattered across the bamboo roof. Diep sat close beside James, her face shadowed with sorrow, her gaze drifting toward the distant night beyond the window. Her voice broke, trembling like the evening breeze rustling through the leaves. "I'm so afraid. My family is poor, and the distance between us is too great. Our parents, they will never accept us." Her throat tightened, cutting her words short. Her eyes reddened, brimming with unshed tears, though she fought to hold them back. The worries she had hidden for so long finally spilled into fragile confession.
Rồi anh vươn tay siết chặt bờ vai mềm mại để hơi ấm từ anh thấm dần sang, xoa dịu phần run rẩy nơi trái tim yếu đuối kia. Giọng anh vang lên trầm ấm, dứt khoát, chan chứa dịu dàng. Chỉ cần chúng ta cùng nhau bước tới, bước từ nào rồi cũng sẽ vượt qua. Em đừng sợ, anh sẽ không bao giờ để em một mình. Diệp khẽ ngước nhìn anh, trong đáy mắt vẫn còn lo, nhưng xen lẫn đã có một tia sáng mong manh, tia sáng của niềm tin, của hy vọng rằng tình yêu có thể đủ mạnh để níu họ lại với nhau, bất chấp những rào cản nghiệt ngã đang chờ phía trước. Thế nhưng, liệu tình yêu có thật sự đủ mạnh để vượt qua những bức tường vô hình mang tên gia đình và định kiến? Khi sự thật về thân phận của Diệp dần hé lộ, James sẽ tiếp tục nắm tay cô hay một vài lựa chọn giữa tình